Over the last week, multiple NFL analysts have had bad things to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and in specific, their players. On one hand, you have people talking bad about Kenny Pickett, saying that he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL and may actually be the worst. And then on the other hand, you have people saying stuff about George Pickens, calling him overrated. So we're going to start with that story first. Let's start with the George Pickens one. Because Chris Sims, who's a part of Pro Football Talk Live, and he joins Mike Florio, the kind of owner of that business. He was talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers' second-year wide receiver and kind of his situation that he was going through, and he mentioned this. Be careful, George Pickens. This is the team that drafted you when you didn't really play your senior year at college. They used a second-round pick on you, where I think a lot of teams were scared to even draft you in the second round. I think he's a little overrated. I do. I'm going to be the one to say it. I'm not trying to say he's not a real good player, but I do think because of some of the highlight plays he's made, it's led to the social media fan base thinking he's a little different from other people. He's overrated. So, he had more things to say about George Pickens and his things on social media that he put out, but I'm not going to cover it because George Pickens and the team kind of put that to rest and it's time to move on from that situation. But I'm going to talk about this situation in specific, him calling him overrated as a wide receiver. So Chris Sims says that he's overrated. Well, if you look at George Pickens in his rookie season, he played 17 games. He started only 12 of them. He had 84 targets, 52 receptions for 801 yards. That's 15.4 yards per reception. He added in 4 touchdowns, and his longest was 42 yards, which was a play. So he also added 3 rushing attempts for 24 yards and 1 touchdown. So when you just look at his production, he did a lot with so limited opportunity. If you remember back to last season, there would be games where he would not even get a target until the fourth quarter or wouldn't even get a target until the whole second half. So there's many times where he was going without the football or without even a target, and he still put up amazing numbers. And that's why the frustration set in last season on the sideline when he wasn't getting the ball. Because of the production that he was giving with a limited opportunity, he felt that there was more of a chance for him to do well if he was given more of an opportunity, but it just never happened. And then so far this season, through 8 games, but it's really only 6 games when you think about it. So just say through 8 games, he has 58 targets for 30 receptions, 521 yards, which is 17.4 yards per reception, and he still, right now, almost has as much touchdowns than he has last season. He has 3 this season, and he had 4 last season. So if you look at that production, I said it's through 8 games. But if you really want to be specific, it's basically through 6. Because the last 2 weeks, he's done basically nothing, getting basically 0 targets. So the last 2 games, what did he have? He had 3 catches in total. One game, he had 2 catches for -1 yards. The other one, he had 1 reception for like 20 and like a touchdown. I can't believe how much yardage it was, but it was still a decent amount. But if he was given more targets those games, those numbers would be so much better. And if he was given targets the last 2 games, there's a chance that he could have had as much yardage. He is 521 right now. He could have had a much yardage in this season than he had all of last season. So if you look at the production that he's putting up for limited opportunity that he's given, I don't know how you could call him overrated. If he was on any other team getting 10 targets a game, like some of the best wide receivers in the NFL, right now on other teams, his numbers would be way past them. If he's doing all this on 3 receptions per game, because that's what he's doing on, basically 3 receptions per game. If he was even getting 8 receptions per game, 7 receptions per game, you could just imagine what his numbers would be. So there's no way right now on this Steelers offense, with Matt Canada's offense coordinator and with Kenny Pickett not throwing him the ball, that you could call him overrated. Wait until he's actually in a system that's actually revolved around him and he's the main guy getting targets. Wait until that and then call him overrated if you want. But as of right now, that argument does not stand because he's not even being used in his right way. If he was being used in the right way, his numbers would be way better. And in his limited opportunity, you see all those catches that he gets, those amazing sideline catches. I know he didn't get his feet in bound the one touchdown, but he usually does. And those catches in the high contested areas and just getting the first down and touchdowns and breaking a deep one whenever needed. So if he was used better, he would be better, but he's not being used proper, but his numbers are still very good. So with that being said, he's not overrated. And now let's move over to the second topic of this video, which is another NFL analyst saying that Kenny Pickett is or might be the worst quarterback in the NFL. So Chris Muller, a local Pittsburgh Steelers analyst person, was speaking about Kenny Pickett, the Steelers offense, after this week's game against the Tennessee Titans, and he had this to say about Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett. I think Canada's play calling is probably a D-, but that isn't an F. He might have the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. He might. So that's what he had to say about Kenny Pickett, that he might be the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. But if you want to look at it really quickly, is he better than any other quarterback in the league? Let me just name a couple really quickly. Let's start with Zach Wilson of the Jets, better than him. Let's look at Atlanta, better than Desmond Ridder, better than Taylor Heineke, whoever you want to call the starter in that situation. Let's look at Carolina Panthers. As of right now, he's better than Bryce Young. So you wanted to go through the list of teams in the NFL, I'm sure I can name more guys that Kenny Pickett is better than. And if you want to look at Kenny Pickett and you want to blame him for things that's happened with the Steelers, that's all reasonable. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is this perfect quarterback and he doesn't deserve any blame for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because there's some games where he does. Like in this last game against the Tennessee Titans, he was missing a lot of throws. Against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he was missing a lot of throws as well. But if you want to look at Kenny Pickett, if you're the worst quarterback in the league, you're not even capable when the game's on the line to go down and win the game and make some big plays and fight back. You just are really bad in every situation. But that's not Kenny Pickett. At least when the game's on the line, the best of him comes out and he's able to make things happen. That's why you can't name him as the worst starting quarterback in the NFL or one of the worst, because in those situations, he does do good. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo, he's better than him as of right now this season, maybe last season or the year before that, maybe not, but this season, he's better than Raiders starting quarterbacks. So you want to see when the game's on the line, if the quarterback could step up. And as of right now, he's in very elite territory with game-winning drives being compared to like Patrick Mahomes and even Tom Brady type numbers from the last few years. Obviously, Big Ben, he was always good at game-winning comebacks, but we're talking about now in the present. So Kenny Pickett, he's been really good this season on game-winning drives, just like he was last season, but he still needs to take that next step. Because there is an argument to say that if you're put in game-winning drive situations, it's because you did bad the whole rest of the game. The whole first half, 3 quarters, 4 quarters of the game, you did terrible. And that's why you were put in those situations where you needed to make a comeback. So Kenny Pickett does need to take that next step and be better, make the simple throws, make the hard throws, and be better for this team. And then the Steelers will start winning more games and not be put in those situations. But in fact, he is not the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. He might be in the bottom half, but he's not in the bottom 4 or bottom 5 or even the worst. So that argument doesn't make sense. Also in the news, Colin Cowherd also said that Kenny Pickett is basically a B- at everything he does. That he's not really good at anything, and he's basically just an average quarterback in everything. Arm strength, running, every single thing for a quarterback, he's a B-. But that's for another day. That's just his opinion, and I just want to cover what these people are saying about Kenny Pickett. When the Steelers start doing good, when Kenny Pickett starts doing good, all these narratives that are painted around Kenny Pickett and how he's not good, or around George Pickens and how he's overrated, I just wanted to be known what was said, and when they turn it around and they prove people wrong, then we can all look back at these stories and this specific video about these players and prove them wrong. But with that being said, that's the end of this video. Let me know down in the comments below, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about George Pickens being called overrated by Chris Sims? How do you feel about Colin Cowherd saying that Kenny Pickett's basically a B-, an average quarterback at everything, and Chris Muller saying that he's the worst quarterback in the NFL, or potentially is the worst? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about this, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below as well. If you like Steelers content, analysis, and reports, like the video, turn on post notifications down below for this channel as well, so you get notified whenever I post the next Steelers video. I cover everything Steelers, so stay up to date. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.